or dinner or something.
For sure, for sure. I am there. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be awesome, like this episode of IoT Coffee Talk that we just fired off, Bill.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, welcome to IoT. Welcome to IoT Coffee Talk, and this is the Santos episode. Bring it, David. Oh, you're a little blurry there. There you go.
There we go.
Yes, it's because you have your fake blurry background thingy.
Yes.
It's
Fake, like many watches you can still buy in Canal Street in New York City if you know which alley to turn into.
Yes.
Or at the Silk Market in Beijing.
Yes. And of course, this is IoT related in many fronts, right? Because you have the imitators. You buy the fake thing and then you don't notice until your plant is on fire that was a bad decision and you should have bought the real thing. Yes. And then whether you're a more traditional mechanical instrument person versus completely digital instrument person, I think there's going to be lots of IoT analogies in the watch and instrumentation world.
I can feel it. But do you think we would have gotten to sophisticated mechanical things today if it wasn't for the deeply complex watches built in Switzerland and elsewhere?
I doubt it, because it takes craftsmanship to put many hundreds of digital of tiny mechanical parts that, no pun intended, they have to be in sync like all day, every day for the thing to work. Otherwise, you have malfunctioning things,
right?
Like a variable frequency drive that's maybe shaking a little bit too much.
This is like MEMS. These people were doing just intense miniaturization hundreds of years ago before people thought about it with computers or small tech or things like that. It's pretty wild to think about. So we're giving props to watchmakers.
Yes. And, and it's funny, a lot of the, there's a lot of, analog, technology in the way that you still have, it's a lot of manual labor, right? It's on the higher end of mechanical watches, you still have a master watchmaker, milling parts to put these pieces together. But also many of them, obviously the engraving has been done by laser for many years now. You don't have a guy with a tiny chisel in there anymore.
Wow.
You have more laser cutting nowadays because, we talked about, right, how to remove repetitive manual labor from humans, right? So, that exists in the watch world too. So no, again, like just a lot of IoT crossover between, watchmaking and whatnot.
I love that. We're able to free them up to work on higher level problems.
Yeah. Bill, do you wear a watch? Are you a mechanical watch guy? You're digital. What do you have? If you
know what's funny is I'm not much of a jewelry person at all. I have a few watches. I have a Breitling. Of course, I have a Rolex.
Of course.
I have my Samsung watch.
Yeah.
I mean, I have them, but it's weird. It's like I don't wear them.
That's okay. I think it's funny. Like, I'll call out the category. You went jewelry. Like, I specifically said watches. But it is in the right category, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not talking about a necklace here. Like,
no. I don't do that either. I don't do that. I don't, I gave up the earring a long time ago. It was just something that I was like, yeah, I went through that phase.
Yeah.
It's like the Samsung watch, I got that because it was free when I upgraded the phone.
Yeah.
So it was, it's just been, if I need to check the time, I've always just pulled out my phone.
Yeah. And
you're lucky you're able to do that, and you don't have to like walk down to the town square of your main street to look at the tower clock or wait for the train to pass
to know what time it is. Yes, yes,
right.
yes.
But we saw that trend that with the rise of everybody having smartphones. I think we saw a decline in watch usage because you're right. That's right there on your, and it probably wasn't until these new fancy high-end computer watches from Apple and Samsung and others came along that all of a sudden, it was interesting. I remember, obviously Apple at all their events, they love to tout numbers and how awesome they are. And I think after the first year of the Apple Watch, it was the number 2 watch in the world. Rolex was the only one ahead of them. Needless to say, Rolex is no longer ahead of them. Everybody, and that's kind of weird, and it kind of feels good to wear this sometimes. I don't wear it often, but there's so much sameness now in the world. It feels like everywhere I go, everybody's wearing an Apple Watch, like everybody.
I mean,
I don't get it. I really don't get it. I mean, I wore it. It's sitting. It's sitting right here.
There it is.
I mean, that's where it sits. It's in my office and it sits on a box.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I hear people, they're like, well, it counts my steps. I'm like, so does your phone.
Oh,
the link between the watch and your phone is it's a one-to-one relationship. And people are like, well, if I get a message, I'm like, you're constantly doing this, which is no different than looking at your phone. I'm struggling with the efficiency of it. And, it counts my biometrics and all this other stuff. I'm like, no, it actually sends the biometrics somewhere else so that somebody knows how you're doing.
Oh,
I just.
Yeah,
right.
See, mechanical watches have full privacy built in.
That's
yeah.
But Bill, you're also you're talking. It's a utility. It's a tool for the job, right? Because here's the thing. Like, so I have a analog watch, but I carry my iPhone, and honestly, like depending which hand is free, sometimes I look at the Roman numerals on my left wrist.
Yep.
And my kids know how to read it because I'll be damned if they cannot read a pressure gauge, one of these days, right? So it's a utility, and no different than picking anything else. Step counter. There's still some that just do that are not cloud connected,
right?
So because I with saying utility, I think where I'm, since we are talking about watches and IoT Coffee Talk, it's also we talk a lot about niche solutions, that are like only serve like a tiny market. Watches do this because you have watches that are specially made for, say, the military, like, like use some sort of like special ops. Like there's watches for that. You've got the watches for, say, an ultra marathon or trail runner, where it's like you've got solar power, you've got a bigger face, you've got a lot of protection, you got a sapphire screen. There's all these permutations of watches that go from the calculator watches, right? We all have that Casio one back in the day.
A nerd in the day, you had the Casio calculator watch.
Yes, man. I was the coolest kid in class. I even had an address book. You can put like people's phone numbers into this thing. Are you kidding me? That's when I had hope for about a week that it was going to make me popular. It did not, but I still had the watch. So it's quite a wide selection of them that. So from parts to the utility of the watch, it's almost like, which sensor do you need for the job, right? Which watch do you need for the job? So anyway, it's super, super, super topical. I'm glad we fall into
mega topical. And since this is the Santos episode, I really think you should go ahead and take a moment and tell everyone the story of Santos and Cartier.
Fair enough. I'm going to go off the top of my head. So folks, use Wikipedia or the Cartier archives. But way back in the day, there was this folk named Santos Dumont. He was a Portuguese or Brazilian, like wealthy entrepreneur guy hanging out in France. He had, I could never get this word in English, the blimp, the dirigible thing, right?
Yeah,
a blimp.
Zeppelin.
Okay, yes, he had one of those to get around. And, so these things to operate, if you think of maybe the trolleys in San Francisco where you have the two levers, it was a two-handed operation air vessel. And a challenge that he was having, he was trying to time travel between point A and point B, but he couldn't tell the time and control the ship at the same time because his watch was a pocket watch. So imagine this guy in a three-piece suit, 100 feet above the Parisian skyline, trying to put his hand in his pocket to figure out what time it was. And he's explaining this problem to his friend, Henry Cartier, right? And, that gave him an idea. And the guy's like, you know what? I'm going to figure something out. And the word is, he sketched it out in the back of a paper napkin and got to work on design. And folks, this is how we have wrist watches nowadays. So that's, little snapshot in history when the dinosaurs walked the earth.
Are you saying that prior to that, a watch was a pocket watch? Basically, there was no such thing.
No, there were no wristwatches. Only mostly like men carry them, not the ladies. If you want to tell time, like I joked at the beginning of the episode, right? You look outside, and if you're close to the tower clock of your town, or you live by the train track, and you knew that I'm 20 minutes from the next station, and that's at 12 o'clock, so it must be 11:40. That's how accurate you would tell the time. The banks will have a clock outside. That's how it was before wristwatches got invented and eventually, mass produced.
Wow. So thanks, Santos. Thanks, Henry Cartier, for having watches today. Wow. That's
The man
cool
saw a
story.
need. Talk about an addressable market.
I love that town, the watches.
Yeah. And I wonder if there was some guy from some agency that went, well, they do have two wrists, so somehow we must try to sling two watches per person and just double the TAM like that.
Absolutely. Why not? Oh my gosh. Isn't that crazy? It also shows how ridiculous venture capitalists are too. Sometimes people are just trying to solve a problem. In this case, a wristwatch so the guy could fly his dirigible blimp Zeppelin thingy over Paris.
Right. But and then another thing, also IoT related is, is without getting too bougie, the reality is, a correctly manufactured watch will tell the time, right? Its primary function is to tell the time. Therefore, in telling the time in the output, there is no difference between a luxury watch and I'm trying to think. I'm going to go back to the Casio calculator watch. They just do the same thing.
Yeah.
So the why overspend in a consultancy and a 6-month project to try to transform something when all you want is to know the time? Just buy the thing. Just go off the shelf. You just want to tell the time. You don't want to do anything else. Like we wrap ourselves around the axle sometimes when it's like, this is all I need. I know the problem is. I know where the tool is. Let me just do it. Don't spend crazy money when the solution is just right there in your face.
But that lends itself to what our good friend Rob Tiffany always says, in that just don't overcomplicate it. Don't overcomplicate it. The stuff is still there. It's just, why are we overcomplicating things? Because it's tech. It really doesn't need to be that.
All right, I'm going to ask a question. Let's see if you guys can get the answer. Why does Anderson Consulting feel the need to overcomplicate things for a customer? And the answer is
Billable hours?
Billable hours. That's right.
Well, I mean, it's that, and how many acronyms can I tie together to show you the hockey stick trajectory that can be achieved if you just follow my hours?
I just remember the frustration of being.
Which is, by the way, why I don't charge billable hours. Never have, never will. Just don't do it. I just don't do it.
Are you project based, or are you?
I am 100% project based, outcomes based, because if I don't deliver on what's there, you don't pay. It's not by milestone. It's not by this. It's not by that. If it's a 9-month project, then we will set up a pay schedule that is based on delivery and outcome. Those things are what drive my business.
That's awesome. I remember the olden days. I'm sure many of us have worked at a consulting firm of some kind. And I remember working at large and small boutique consulting firms, SIs, whatever you want to call them. And I remember, though, it was a rarity to see consulting firms that did project-based pricing. And the reason was maybe it's changed, but back in the day, it's just really difficult to calculate that. And a lot of firms who tried to do it got burned really bad. Like they'd say, here's a fixed bid for whatever project. And it turned out to go on forever, and they went out of business because they
went out of business because they didn't know what the hell they were doing.
That's right. And so since so many folks don't know what they're doing and they're bad at estimating project sizing, they're just like, you know what, we're just going to punt and do time and materials and stick it to the customer.
There's a soft spot in my heart for some of in the consulting world, because look, at the end of the day, it's great that they are available because you have someone, if you hire the right person, right? If you hire the right shop, that they have the right experience in the right sector that can help you deliver results in a fast manner versus trying to hire it out and, do it from within sort of thing. But what really, really makes me upset, because I've seen it many times, is you have the big name firm does a deal with a big name firm. The executives shake hands and it's going to be awesome. And when it's time to, let's deploy the project, dude, the junior people are really junior. And the billable hours for these kids are outrageous. And all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, what happened to the guy that pitched this thing that had all this experience and sounded, knows what the problem is? And I'm like, excuse me, are you even shaving? And hold on, before someone says no, this isn't an ageist thing, but experience is experience. And if you're 20 years old, you just don't have 20 years of enterprise experience because you just can't. So anyway, that always just drove me nuts to see leveraging junior employees for crazy billable hours and nothing was going to happen because the experience wasn't there. So that always drove me nuts, and I saw it too many times.
No, I mean, I think that's it. That 100%. I mean, the whole thing about it, and I caught it when I started. But mind you, that when I started, I had already gone through an IPO. I had already gone through an accretive acquisition. I was in charge of architecting and building platforms and solutions and doing diligence on companies for acquisition and things like that. So I had been from A to Z and had done it. I had been passed over. I had been all of these other things that made me say, you know what? I've got the patents, I've got the cachet, I've got the knowledge, I've got the experience. I can go and do this and create value for a set of customers. And I don't have to tell them it's $350 an hour. I don't have to tell them that. I don't have to justify that. I literally will go in and say, what problem are we trying to solve? Number one. I'm not going to come in and ask you your pain point. I know your pain point. I just want to know what problem we're solving first. I'm going to do the strategy.
I'm smiling here, Bill, because I bought you. I mean, not me directly, but my own friends. I'm like, yeah, I remember this very clearly. And after we're done recording, I swear I haven't. Anyway, there's something for me to show you. Let me not say.
Okay. I mean, I'm just saying that it was the feedback that I got initially was, oh, if you're consulting, you're just looking for your next job. I was like, no, I don't want a job. I don't. I want the freedom to create. So unlike a set of the big names that do the pretty slides and have, all the PERT charts and all of these other, forget all of that. You know what you need? Let's figure out what problem we're solving. Let's tie things together. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, because you got some good stuff there. And let's solidify what you have that's usable. And then let's build on top of that to deliver the outcomes that you're looking for. Oh, and by the way, after I finish the slides, I actually do the work. So it's either myself and my team, or we have ecosystem partners that come in. The price doesn't change. The price is the price. And so that was the thing for me that I feel like set me apart from the rest of that.
But but actually, I'll see what your reaction is. When the price is the price, the reaction is different when you're talking to a doer that aligns with you on an outcome and understands that you're going to do something together to deliver an outcome, versus the someone in a budgetary or leadership position that ultimately is not really doing anything. They're going to hire people to do what this person should be responsible to deliver in the first place. And if it fails, it's just like, well, they failed, not me. And the reaction to price is very different, because the doer sees the value right away. Won't even ask questions. Wait, only 350 and we're going to deliver this project in time? Let's go. The ROI is already there. Let's just run with it, because they're doing it with you, versus the other person. There's again, audience, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, the thing about it is everybody has mentors. One of my mentors actually said, you know what? Not all money is good money. And I said, wow, okay. And I experienced that, where literally they were like, name your price. And I was like, there is no price. Oh, you don't want this project? No, I don't. Number one, there are conditions that most consultants ignore that let you know that it's a poison pill that you're taking. And they will go in and they'll say, this project is $1.5 million. Yeah, but there's $2.5 million of technical debt that you're not going to overcome.
Yeah.
And you are being set up for failure.
Yeah.
And that way they can blame it on the consultant.
So if I took the job and I didn't realize that they still had a mainframe in the basement, I'm host?
You're host.
Or like you're having to take over a project, a big code base, and you discover that there's absolutely no documentation. There's no architecture diagrams. There's no entity relationship diagram for the database. There's nothing. There's just dig into the code and figure it out.
I could see Bill walking into a pump station and sees that there's a rotary phone hooked up to the alarm, and he just walks back like Homer Simpson into the trees. Just
that's right. That's right.
Like, no, folks, I'm out.
That's it. I am done. No, the writing is on the wall, and you have to see those things. It's very similar. And I mean, I think it's just, to your point, David, when you're talking about the younger generation, right? This is not an age thing. This is an experience thing. The younger generation does not see what what is directly in front of them, what they see. And when they say rose-colored glasses, they're seeing it the way they want to see it. And then when the stuff goes south, I should have saw the writing on the wall. You did see the writing on the wall. You just didn't read it.
It was there all along.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Oh
I wish
God.
I could look at my mortgage bill with rose-colored glasses, but it doesn't change. I'm like, damn, I got to go to work again. Okay, let's put it down. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man! I always thought of that. Earlier you were talking about how they'd always put the most junior young kids on these projects, and the saying was, and I'm just picking on old Anderson Consulting, which doesn't exist anymore, but they were like many. And they're like, everybody said, yeah, they're going to back up the school bus to your office building, let out the consultants who are going to come do the project, And, I've always felt like I'm a doer, right? But like, kind of like you guys, I create things. And I would always be frustrated when I'd see a big consulting firm spend 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is. And the deliverable was a stack of paper. And I'm like, why didn't you do the thing? Well, no, we don't actually do the thing, but we're going to give you all this documentation that tells you what you should do. And I understand that that's part of it, but sometimes it just seemed like that's all I saw as deliverables from my naive eyes, I guess, from a lot of these big, consulting firms, SIs, whatever.
Now, another bit, again, for the second time, also a little bit of defense. Where I've seen it work is, so here's the thing. If you, Rob, you get, you decide to go corporate again next week, you come into a big org, you're an executive, and they hand you the plate of steaming cabbage. Now, as a responsible leader, well, you got to figure out, what are the problems to solve so that we can, make money, business 101. And of course, you're going to talk to whoever's there, to the people that are in that org right now. And you hope that they're going to tell you the truth, right? They're going to be honest. They're going to tell you where the skeletons are buried so that you know how to fix the thing that you just got hired on. So where I've seen the consultant thing work is, remove the bias. Let me bring someone from the outside to come and do this project. And it's like, hey, your job is to tell me what the hell is wrong here and give it to me in a stack of paper. Because now this person, ideally, right, is there's no bias because they don't work there and they're there with a mission. I'm here to find problems, report the problems, and leave. There's value there because now as a leader, you can compare, well, what I heard from my teams versus, this report so there it works. And I think, that's worth good money because then it will save an executive a ton of time, put on a strategy and then just kind of go. So those I support. If you don't get the slow bus.
Well, but if you look at it, let's really look at what you just said. An organization, you come in, you're an executive. At whatever level it is, you have a team that are chartered to do a certain thing. First thing that happens when you become that, we all know this. Okay, well, he just got in here. The team's first reaction, self-preservation. Self-preservation. Because as an executive, I have a large network. And if I can't get these other things done, I need that position. I'm bringing my team.
Typical, yeah.
Yeah.
So self-preservation is the first thing. Let me make sure. So the likelihood that you're going to hear the truth, the unadulterated truth, is slim to none. So to your point, you bring in an outside entity that is going to give you a real assessment of here's what you really should do. Now, the problem with that, with the majority of organizations, is the not invented here. We already tried that didn't work. And you're wasting big money on a consulting firm that's just going to give you a presentation and walk away.
Yeah.
So consultants over time, because of their lack of doing, their lack of hands-on, their lack of jumping in and becoming an integrated part of the team, even though they're not, Even if they're just an extension, but they've got a direct tie-in and it's not at the executive level, they're tied into the doers.
Yeah. Have you ever had the experience where you're not part of, so there's a lot of these really, really big consulting firms, SIs. I don't want to say any names. They were all previously accounting, auditing firms, but now they've decided to go into computer consulting and all that. Anywho, have you ever been with them? Because a lot of times, because you're right, they actually don't know how to do the thing. They just know how to do PowerPoint and give you stacks of stuff. But you're right. They usually will bring in smaller boutique consulting firms or regional SIs who actually know how to do the thing. And so I found myself in that situation before, and that's fine. Have you ever had that experience when they're doing their PowerPoint presentation and you see your slides from a past life that they're using? Customer.
Yeah. I mean, it's a wonderful thing, but I look at it like knowing all the things that we're talking about, knowing that before I ever even started, I said, I'm not going to do that. That is what I'm not going to do. So literally, I would not create pretty slides. 12 years later, I don't create pretty slides. I create informative slides. And people worry about a lot of white space. I'm like, if that's what it is, that's what it is. It's a lot of white space. I'm just going to get the point across. It is what it is. But now, once we have agreed on this and you as the customer, client are happy, let's go do the thing.
Yeah.
That's right there.
Yeah.
And that same team that did that write-up and everything, it's the same team that's going to go execute.
Yeah, you're right.
Rob, where I thought you were going with the, hey, you're showing the slides of the thing I highlighted 6 months ago and we didn't do jack. And now all of a sudden it's a priority. I thought you were going to go with the typical move where a firm is hired and they are on site and they come to you, Mr. Manager, and say, okay, so listen, you're going to work, this is a new team. And then you're in a presentation 3 weeks later and you're like, so you're training them and then we're going to rebadge all of you. And and then you're like, oh, so that's what I'm doing. I am basically going to train these guys, empty my brain here, then change employer. That's no good. But that's happened too.
Yeah.
No,
and I wasn't even talking
not naming names, but we know where they shipped.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. And I wasn't even talking about like recent slides or something related to the project. I'm talking about me as a speaker at conferences and content creator for thousands of years, them just grabbing my stuff from the ether and then selling it as their ideas. I also want to touch on white space. I think due to something going on with the nits of computers these days and the glaring brightness of white space, I prefer black space. And so all my PowerPoints, I'd say for the last few years, the background is black with white text versus then the opposite. Because I don't know about you, sometimes maybe it's nighttime, maybe it's whatever. The white slide is just blinding bright.
Yeah.
It's just, sometimes it's overwhelming. And so I find it's less eye strain if you have a black background, that I know that's just bizarre conversation here, but I don't know. I don't know.
A white PowerPoint slide sometimes represent what's on my brain most of the time. Like, let me give you a visual of what it is to be in here.
Yeah. Nothing. It's also because
another thing that's really interesting is when you're doing your own thing, how many people reach out to you and just say, I just want to pick your brain.
Oh, yes.
I just want to pick your brain.
Oh my God.
And I'm fine with it. I mean, I'm totally fine with it. I mean, literally, you want to talk? Let's set up an hour, fire away. Because we'll go back to David's point. I've got 25 plus years in this. There's a reason why I do things the way that I do them. And before there was ever really a smart city consultant, that's what I was, because that was the vertical area that I chose to focus in. But then all of a sudden I started seeing a bunch of smart city consultants pop up. And that's what they would do. I just want to pick your brain. And I mean, it over and over, well, how do you approach cities? And what makes them pick you? And why do you do this? And why do you do that? And, and I'm like, I'll give you answers. If you can take my answers and turn them into execution, good on you. But if you don't have my experience and have done the things that I've done, good luck.
It's been a lot of brain picking happening since I left Ericsson last year. A lot of that happening.
Bring a hard hat with you.
I think it's a time consideration. I definitely take them because first I'm like, God, why would you want to pick my brain out of all available brains? So that's my first reaction. But then it's like, so just let's chat. And, and more often than not, they're just, I end up learning something from them from a different perspective. So I do take quite a few of those here and there. But Bill, with a bit about the experience, the thing is that is something no one can recreate. Someone who has 20 plus years talking to a group in the population, right? Like you just can't. And I would bet good money that rarely a month goes by from you getting a call, an email, or a DM from someone that you talked to or in a conference like 3, 4, 80 years ago. And when they met you, they were a lineman somewhere in some utility that no one's ever heard of. And now they've moved up through the ranks and they're reaching out to you to reconnect. And that happens because you've been doing what you've been doing for 2+ decades. It cannot be recreated. I mean, no. I can use automation and blast a nicely crafted email and just send it with ease, but that's spaghetti at the wall. And that's something that I think goes underappreciated. Like, dude, like I've been doing this for I know people. Like I can pick up my phone and just actually, hold on. I know who this is. I'll tell you right now if that's a problem. People go like, whoa, really? I'm like, yes. I'm older than I look.
Yes. No, you are 100% right. And it's like I've said, after all of that, and you experience, a level of success and things are going well. And at some point, because I like to create, doing the same thing over and over again is great. I mean, you can build a business that way and do all of that. But for me, it's always been this way. I kind of started getting unchallenged. And you start seeing things as it becomes saturated. And as we're looking at the IoT space and we're looking at, anything smart, and we're looking at the infrastructure bill and how much money is going to be spent. And we're looking at, all of these other things. A prime example is there is a data company that deals with vehicle data, and their stuff has just gone down because of the partnerships that they created. And there were challenges because everyone's talking about data. My goal was, I've been doing this for 12 years now, plus the other years that I was doing it for, public companies and private companies. And I said, all of this stuff that I've done for cities, because we do the thing, we actually build that stuff that we're talking about, and create something else. So I want my cities and I want my clients and customers to stop paying for SOWs. And I'm going to take everything that I've done, I'm going to create a module, whether it be for device lifecycle management, whether it be for digital twins, whether it be for whatever it is, and I'm going to give it to you as a SaaS offering. Question is, would that be interesting to you? Yes, thank you, please. Because for that, now you get all the security patches, you get all the upgrades, you can inbound all your requirements. You want new data streams, you want all this. We'll take it, we'll do it for you, all in the subscription price.
Yeah.
And now there's two separate companies going on. What people fail to realize is, as a consultant, even inside these bigger organizations, you have consultants. As employees, they're just called sales engineers.
Yeah.
They're doing that same thing. So this was for me, my thing was it was go, solve problems, create value, deliver on the expectation. And as time rolled out, oh, wait a minute, you know what? There's another business opportunity. Let's do this now. Now we're going to go out and we're just going to build stuff.
It's fun to build stuff.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
It's funny. I had one of those, how you get peppered on LinkedIn all the time, or emails, all the spam about people who either looked at your LinkedIn profile, or maybe they somehow saw a copy of your resume and they want to help you with that stuff. And I remember one time someone says, just looking at your stuff, sadly, you come across as a doer.
Sadly.
Like that, and that was a ding against the way she absorbed what was on my resume or LinkedIn or whatever she was looking at, instead of positioning it.
I need a talker, not a doer.
Yeah. And I was just like, I forgot what the alternative was. It was either leader or whatever it was, but it was, the doer thing was derogatory, actually.
Yes.
In her mind. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's so much of what we see today, right? I mean, people, they create fragmentation. We talk about end-to-end type stuff. We talk about systems and systems of systems.
Yeah.
And yet you find people talking, in cliche, right? Data is the new oil. Well, I want to be the refinery. And, and all of these other things. And I'm like, yeah, okay, sure, that's all good. But what are you actually doing? I see a lot of people doing great stuff, but it's still being fractionalized. It's not being summarized.
Yeah. If we had the little video clip meme right now, we would have the Bobs from Office Space. What is it you say you do here exactly? I take the facts from the customer and then because they don't know how to talk to other people.
Yes. Yeah. I just saw that movie this weekend as well. That's hilarious.
I'm looking around for a stapler, but I don't have one on my desk because I don't have the incoming faxes to staple together anyway. So yeah.
As long as I've watched that movie since it came out, it's always had the same effect on me. In fact, my wife Kathy would say, don't let him watch that, or he won't show up at the office the next day. Because I'll watch that movie and for some reason I just lose all my will to work anymore. It just goes right away. And I'm like, I'm just going to play Tetris.
I think it's there's an opportunity for businesses to leverage office space as a teaching of like, we are a business. We're here to make money. You're not family. You're here to help me make money. And in exchange for your time, I will give you some money. And most people will go like, okay, that sounds fair to me. Let's go. Instead of like, oh, we're going to treat you like family. No, pay me. We're a tight-knit. No, pay me. We have great benefits. Great. And pay me. It'll just be better. So they can use office space as an example.
Yes.
That word that has popped up in the last few years, because you're right, as treating like your employees like family, almost somehow being toxic, and almost using that to abuse their employees, to make them work longer and to do things they wouldn't normally do, because, but we're a family here and we're all in this together and we're all blah, 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 blah. Please work 80 more hours,
Yeah, no, it's abuse. I think I absolutely worked with people that today, like I think of them as family. So it does happen, but because the relationships grew that way, not because the company imposed this family, right? So it's very different, right?
Yeah.
Will you find a work family? Very likely. But when your employer is talking about family, no, just go like, no, I got family, I've got friends. Just worry about paying me, and I'll do what I have to do to deserve that pay. An honest day's work used to this, one of my mentors say. So
There you go.
let's use family in the right context.
And on that note, we probably have meetings to go to here
In 3 minutes.
Exactly. So maybe, Bill, you could take us out live from Dripping Springs.
Absolutely. Everyone listening to IoT Coffee Talk. I mean, not only do we talk tech, but we talk reality. Not everything that you think is what it is. If you dedicate yourself, if you deliver value, if you understand your space, you will drive success and value. Hit that follow button, follow us, listen to all of the good stuff that we have coming. David, a genius, Rob, an innovator, and me, the prognosticator. See you next week. We're out.
Peace.
Peace out, y'all.